Our economy is in a crisis. People are suffering, losing everything they've worked for their whole life. Our government says that bold action is required, so we're jumping in head first to get things back on track. But what exactly are we jumping into? Many felt it started in September of 2008 with a $29.5 billion bailout of Bear Stearns. And even after you adjust for inflation, it's much more than other huge projects from our history like the Hoover Dam or the Panama Canal. But that still wasn't enough. So we committed another $97.2 billion to Bank of America, $97.4 billion for auto companies, and $112 billion for AIG. That's almost the same of $115 billion we spent to rebuild Europe after World War II. Add in another $139 billion for GE and $235 billion for Citigroup. That's $710 billion to bail out banks and big corporations. But that's just a start. We're paying another $300 billion for homeowners who can't pay their mortgages. This is slightly less than the cost of World War I, but not as much as the $400 billion that we're spending to prop up Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. These numbers are simply huge. On their own, any one of these programs would rate among the largest in U.S. history, falling behind record holders like the New Deal or the Iraq War. But add in the additional $700 billion that we're spending to buy up bad loans through TARP and a $787 billion stimulus package. In total, the government has spent over $4 trillion on this crisis, and it beats the all-time record holder, World War II. Unfortunately, these $4 trillion is not the beginning. Since 1789, when our federal government was created, there have been times when we've had a balanced budget, but we have never had zero as our national debt. We have had our ups and downs through the years, with peaks from the War of 1812, Civil War, World War I, and the highest peak of national debt until recent years was World War II. Then, in the 1980s, our national debt started to grow quickly. In 1981, our national debt was $998 billion, and over 20 years later, in 2001, our national debt grew to $5.8 trillion. That's an enormous amount of money, but it's nothing compared to what's next. In 2009, our national debt was $10 trillion. In just 8 years, our debt grew another $4.2 trillion. Now, at the end of 2010, our national debt is $14 trillion. And with the government committing to spend an additional $7.8 trillion over the next few years. And let's not forget we owe Social Security $2.5 trillion, along with $26 billion a year in foreign aid. We are going into debt at a rate of $3.5 billion a day. Depending on who you believe or what website you've seen, somewhere between $2 and $5 trillion have been given out without Congress or us being told where it is gone. We do know this. There is no doubt that there is money missing. We've heard that from members of Congress. So if we add everything up, it could be $24 trillion or more by the year 2012. Divide $24 trillion of debt by 305 million Americans. That would be $78,000 of debt for every man, woman, and child in the United States. Make no mistake, both political parties are responsible for this life-threatening, freedom-taking disaster. This national debt could at any time put an end to the United States of America. This crisis was avoidable and an easy fix. Let's take a 10-story building as an illustration. As you're looking at this building, you notice that there's a crack in the foundation. Each and every day, this crack gets bigger and bigger. The crack is so large now that the integrity of the building is now at stake. So if you're going to fix the building, would you start at the top and work your way down? That's what the government is doing now. Or would you start at the foundation and work your way up? The building represents the United States, and the foundation represents we, the people. We are the foundation to our country, and if you would fix us first by putting us back to work on nationwide jobs, we the people would have kept paying our bills, and we wouldn't have to lose everything we've worked for our entire life. For corporate America, they need to take their own financial hits and learn a lesson on greed. In 1907, the collapse of Wall Street was caused by derivatives. Derivatives are side bets on anything that's established, such as commodity, security, or credit default swaps of today. And that all took place in what they called bucket shops, which looked a lot like betting parlors. Derivatives were outlawed in 1909, but were brought back in 2000 with the help of Alan Greenspan. Congress passed a law prohibiting states to ban or regulate financial derivatives, and of course, Bill Clinton signed it into law. It's estimated that there's over $400 trillion of side bets on derivatives worldwide, and our banks account for $280 trillion of that. Now you understand why they don't care about lending money or making loans or even keeping us in our homes. There are many who are responsible for this financial disaster, but the banks are at the top of the list. Banks today would rather gamble on the roll of a dice, a turn of a card, or a pull of a lever instead of hard work, safe investments, or commitment to customer care.
I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. Thomas Jefferson.
If you're for open borders, a North American Union, or a world power with global currency, then this is going perfectly to your plans. But for we the people, we have a way out, and it's already in the works. You'll hear us loud and clear in 2012 when we the people take back our land and our government. For all of you who are responsible for the undermining and destruction of our country, you are guilty of treason, and you should be held accountable.
A great nation cannot remain great if it cannot keep its economy strong. We the people.